The career of the actor is waiting for the opportunity to interview for a temp position because all acting jobs are temp positions.
Do you know what a commercial session director is? Well, today you are in for a treat. I am interviewing Mr. Spencer Cramber, and he is going to break down what he does and how you can pop at your next commercial audition. If this is your first time here, my name is Lydia Nicole, and this is Acting Smarter Now. What exactly is a commercial session director?
My job as a session director, when people often confuse me as a casting director, I'll tell them, "Hi, I'm Spencer. What do you do?" "I'm a session director in commercial casting." And then they'll turn to a friend and say, "This is Spencer. He's a casting director." And I say, "No, no, I'm not a casting director." So, a commercial session director is someone, typically freelance, who is hired by casting directors to run the audition sessions for them. So, you are an actor and you get a commercial audition and you show up, and I am often the one who greets you, sometimes brings you in. If I don't have a lobby assistant, gives you the direction, slates you, records a take, gives you an adjustment, records a second take, and then sends you on your way. So I am the one who is running the session for the casting director. That's what I do as a day job.
And why is it important, if not crucial, for actors to listen to the commercial session director?
Because we are the conduit for the director and the casting director for what they are looking for. The directors communicate it to the casting director, what they're looking for, and the casting director will communicate that to us. So we start the session together. If you do come in sometimes if you're the first talent to come in, the casting director might be in the room working out the direction with me for the first two, three groups. But then the casting director has to go to their office because they're multitasking. They're working on the job they currently have. They're bidding for a job that's around the corner. They're maybe booking or finalizing a job that is finished. So they have a lot more to do in their office, and that's why they hire us. And we are the ones who are able to see what's happening with the session as well. So if you come in the middle of the day or later on, or even at the beginning, we're going to have a good sense of what's the best way to get the best performance out of you. And the things that I can really tell that I like to communicate first and really make sure that actors are hearing. And when I train other session directors, when I used to, this was the biggest thing that I would communicate is blocking and eye line. Those are what I call the bones of the audition. Because a lot of theatrical auditions, you're just standing there and there's not a lot of movement. But with commercial, we'll bring in a chair. We'll have you walk into the scene. We'll have props available. Because there's 30-second films, we can get a lot more into the production value of it. Some casting directors almost feel like they're shooting the commercial for the director. So we get very specific about the blocking and the eye line. Your character is going to walk in from here. They're going to land on the mark. You're going to say your line in a camera, and then you're going to walk off to your left. And everyone's getting the same blocking. Everyone's getting the same eye line, or we'll use post-its off camera. And those are the things you really want to make sure that you're listening to, that you're hearing. And if it's not clear, because sometimes we're not always the best, those are the things that you want to clarify. But when an actor comes in and I can tell when they weren't listening because they don't do it in the camera. They don't look where we ask them to. They don't do the blocking. And I love it when they clarify, when they say, just want to make sure I heard you right. And they can go over their own little rehearsal real quick. And I've also become a big proponent of the way you are in an audition is the way you'll be in the callbacks, which is the way you'll be on set. And if you're not listening in the audition, and then you show you're not listening in the callback, the director's going to assume you're not going to be listening on set.
I had heard you talk in another interview about clarification versus choices, which I thought was a really awesome piece of information. Can you break down the difference between asking the session director or the casting director for clarification versus asking them for choices that they should make?
The example that I love to get, I had an acting coach named Craig Wallace of the Wallace Technique. And he told this story years ago. He, I think he was working at Universal for some big studio, and he became friends with a casting director. And this is like the 80s. And he said, I'd love to see what you do as a casting director. And the casting director said, come and sit in on a session. And actors would come in, and at a certain point, very early on in their audition, this casting director, and this is very old school mentality, this doesn't happen anymore, but for the sake of the story, the lesson, the casting director would stop them at a certain point and say, thank you so much. And they would leave, or the casting director would let them go all the way through it. And this was very appalling to Craig. And Craig eventually said, what are you doing? And the casting director said, I can tell in the first 30 seconds who is bringing in choices and who is coming in looking for choices to be given to them. And he said, let's do an experiment. I'll let the next 10 people come in and we'll let them get all the way through it. But in the first 30 seconds, put down in which column you think they fall into. And sure enough, people would come in, and Craig was watching now, and he could tell the people that were coming in seeking for a choice to be given to them. And the example is this: I walk into the room, Lydia, you're the casting director, and we get through the slates, and you say to me, any questions? And the most obvious one is, what are you looking for in this? That is an actor who's looking for choices to be given to them. Now, I might have clarification questions of, is it okay if I walk into the frame? Is it okay if I sit? And that is also a choice, but you never know the flexibility of them with the camera. So that for me is a clarification. Or direction has been given and maybe it wasn't exactly clear. So I'm going to clarify. Just want to make sure I heard you right. I'm going to come in from here. I'm going to play Godzilla, my outline for Godzilla to that light you said. And then I'll look into the camera and I'll say, drink Pepsi. And then I walk off to my left, correct? Not to my right? Okay, good. Those are clarifications. But now, how I react to Godzilla is my choice. So when an actor comes in and I say anything, any questions, and they say, nope, that's an actor communicating to me they're bringing in their choice. They've listened. And if they need a clarification on blocking or eyeline or even framing, how tight are you? Are my hands in play? Is it okay if I put a little physicality to it? Or are you on a close up and stillness would be more of my friend? Great question. Thank you for clarifying. I'm on a close up, so the stiller you are, the better. But as far as the nuances of their character choices, how they're approaching it, that is what we want to see. We want to see an actor bringing in their choices, who they are, because that is what makes the audition unique.
Acting for commercials, though it's a little different, it still is similar in that you have to prepare. It's all about preparation. You've done your homework. Now you can throw it away and have fun. And then if they like you, they'll say, "Can you do it another way?" Right? Isn't that
Mm-hmm.
how it works? If they like you and they go, "Oh, yeah, let's tweak what you just did. Can you do it this way?" But you've given them stuff that they can work with.
And you want them to be different in their own grounded way. If everyone comes in and they say, make the same choices for me, then they will look like everyone else. But if they come in with a choice, like one that we talk about is if you're doing spokesperson work and I'm talking to the camera and I am informing somebody about this product that has really changed my life for the better. And now I'm sharing this secret with them and I find joy in helping them out. Who am I talking to? And when I teach, it really, and when I audition, I make these choices of, it depends upon the product. If I am talking about internet service and how simple it is, I'm talking to my mom because she's the one who sets up the internet for her and my dad, and she's constantly confused about it. But I can be like, Mom, Spectrum is so easy to use. They're so quick, so efficient. You're not going to have any problem with them. And that's very different than talking to one of my friends who's very tech savvy. And that's one great way of also making a take one different from take two. When someone says, hey, that was great, I got no notes, just do it again, make it different. Now I'm going to change who I'm talking to, and I'm going to talk
Mhm.
to one of my friends who is looking for faster internet, and I can focus on that, versus coming in and saying, who am I talking to? Because a lot of people think like, oh, I'm talking to the camera and I'm selling a product. And that's not really developing a relationship. And what interests us as an audience is seeing somebody having a relationship and having a conversation with somebody. Help them out as the audience and help them feel communicated like they're heard in a conversation where I'm just the only person talking to them. And that's as an example of sign of really good spokesperson work.
When I'm auditioning, I should prepare 2 or 3 different ways.
Yes. Yeah. Especially for commercials because they're so short. We typically, and first of all, one of the things that I love to preach is it's an art form, so there are no absolutes. So if you ever hear me in this any of our conversations use the word always or never, call me out on it because I'm wrong. Because I could sit here and say we always do 2 takes, but that's not true. Sometimes we do 1, sometimes we do 5. You don't know. But let's say a majority of the time we're doing 2 takes. And I've come to learn through my experience as a session director, you're pleasing 2 parties by doing 2 takes. The first take, you're pleasing everyone, but in my opinion, you're specifically pleasing the advertising agency, the agents who have wrote and are producing this commercial for their clients. So I'm going to make a choice. I'm going to deliver the script as written, and I'm going to give a nice, clean kind of commercial read on it. Now we're talking about differences. Let's say there's nothing that needs to be fixed. And a lot of actors get confused by they get an adjustment, and right away they go to this negative place of, oh, I did something wrong. The session director, casting director, or director are now fixing it, which is not always the case. And sometimes we do a poor job of communicating that. Sometimes we will give an adjustment just to see range, but we say it in a tone that makes the actor think that they've done something incorrect. And I've seen many good directors and casting directors, and I try to implement this myself, of saying, hey, that was great. Now let's play with it. That way, an actor can feel like, okay, I gave them what they wanted. And now actors should know, now we're just seeing what else I can do. Versus, we missed this moment. Let's do it again. But that's a fix. And that's good to communicate of like, okay, yes, I hear what you're saying. I missed this. I can do that. Let's do that again. Or typically you want to just say copy or give a nod. And so on a second take, I will make different choices and I'll either kind of have those planned out or I just go with it in the moments. And some of the way I like to educate and direct people to do it differently is talk to somebody different if that is apropos to the scene, but maybe you have a scene partner that you're working with. So they're already there and the relationship is already established. On the second take, another thing that we like to do to please the director, now just the director, is changing the script a little bit and not massive improv. I'm not going to rewrite the scene or the scenario, but if the first take is clean, we jump right into the scripted lines. We do it basically as written. And then at the end, we add a little thing we like to call the button, which is just a little bit of additional improv. It could be verbal, it could be non-verbal at the very end. On the second take, with permission, hey, can I play with this now? Can I add a little bit? Yeah, sure, go ahead. I'm going to throw in a launch. I'm not going to do it exactly as written. If there's certain elements in the script that I can change by replacing, let's say, I'll get a hot dog and a beer. On a second take, I might say, you know what? I'm going to get that slice of pizza and, ooh, the slushy looks good. That's what I call a simple substitution. It's got nothing to do with the script. And then at the end, I'm going to do a different button, which casting directors and people love because you're showing that you have an unlimited well of resources. If you repeat the same things, it just seems like you've written one thing and you don't have a lot of flexibility, or one trick pony, I call it. And that's one way to make a second take different from a first. Now you're showing the director when you're on set and the script isn't working, that they can come up to you, and this has happened with me on set many times. They can come up to you and say, hey guys, I'll cover up your microphone. The script sucks. We got to make it better. Do something different, and then you dive into your improv skills and you start saying something else and you listen in the instinct, in the moment, and you add something else to it. You make a little change of directed, and the next thing you know, they're laughing from behind the curtain because you're doing the unexpected. And that's what's really exciting. And just other couple quick examples that I like to direct is you're doing a scene. Let's say you're on a phone call and the person next to you hits a horn button every time they make a sale. You're in like one of those sale offices, and they hit a button that makes a loud noise and a siren goes off every time they make a sale. Well, the first time, the first take, it's the first time this has ever happened. That's one reaction. Okay, all right, thank you so much. Brrr. You're confused. You're shocked. You're surprised. You really don't know what happened, so you're taking it in. That's our first take. Second take, this has been happening for 2 months. All right, thank you so much. Have a great day. Purr. Hi, how can I help you? You're annoyed. You get a different reaction just by changing the circumstance. So that's another great one. This happens all the time. This is the first time that this has happened. It can also just be as simple as, I love to do this with some monologues, is try something where you're always just very serious, no smiles, and get all the way through it. And then on the second take, put a little smile behind it. And it's a very mechanical thing. There's no logical choice behind it, but you will discover different colors, different nuances, and you will show range.
I want to ask a question about improv because I was thinking of stand ups. Sometimes stand ups have a very difficult time sticking to the script and they will improv their way out of a job or possibility of a callback. When actors are told, okay, do it. We want the first time to be clean, just the copy. The second time we're going to do a little improv. There are My question for you is what are the guidelines there if they say improv, how are you how should you advance the material, do you abandon the script and just do what you want, or do you go with the launch and the button? It's like, I'm going to give you your script, but I'm going to give you just a couple of little pieces here.
It obviously depends, but with that being said, it depends. And what's fascinating is that there's two different types of commercial improv, and so many actors or students, I should say, get freaked out when they start thinking improv. When they hear the word improv, they start thinking, whose line is it anyway? Groundlings, Sunday Company, UCB, Improv Olympics, which is a very different type of beast. We still have a structure here. There's still the script and a story to be told. I'm always doing a group explanation. There's always, there's very few moments where, and there I use the word always, there's very few moments where I just say, all right, here you go. Just wheel it. Just free for all it. I will go so far as to say, if you do this script, I'm referring to the board, if like I'm in person, exactly as written, that is a fail. And that's been the clearest way, because some actors who are newer get so ingrained into their minds of the word is the script is Bible. I must do it exactly as is, which is great to demonstrate. And I've seen plenty of people in callbacks lose jobs because they cannot do the script exactly as written. Those stand-up comedians, those improv artists that you speak of, there's something just to them where they're not able to improvise. So it is finding that blend. For me, it's just fleshing it out for yourself. The simplest way is saying replace with the, and throw in some ums and let it feel more fleshed out, like you're having a conversation with someone rather than talking at someone. I'll go so far as to, instead of saying action, prompting my talent with a question that will lead them into their first line. So, what do you love about drinking Pepsi? What I love about Pepsi, and then I'll hit record as soon as I'm done asking the question. That way, they feel more naturalistic, like and they can start with something like, "Oh, dude, what I love about drinking Pepsi," and so on and so forth. One of my big components, my philosophy with acting, coaching it, directing it, teaching it, and doing it, is acting is the marriage of technique and instincts. Tom Hanks, I heard recently saying that Spencer Tracy used to say, acting is hitting your mark and telling the truth. When I heard that, I went, wow, that's the same thing as what I've developed as a philosophy, because hitting your mark is very technical. You have to map out the steps. You have to make sure you're hitting the right spot. If you don't have technique and you can't hit your mark, you can't be worked with. A director will say like,
Mm.
wow, that I'm spending all day trying to get an actor to just hit their mark. And hitting your mark is many different things. Having your right eye line, looking up on a specific moments, whatever that might be. It's the technical element, saying your line at a certain rhythm. Sitcoms are very specific. You don't change lines on sitcoms. They're writing it like notes in an orchestra. So you got to hit da 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 da, ba da 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 da, laugh, da 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 da, second laugh, and so on. Instincts is that little magic that you bring to it in the moments that you don't even plan out. It's something that happens instinctually when you're there. So when I ask actors, I'm like, okay, do a second take now, give me a different button. And I say, okay, give me, and I see them say, okay, just give me a second, let me think of something. I just say action because I'm like, no, don't think of something. I don't want you to write something. What would your character say in the moments? Because that is truth, hitting your mark and telling the truth. Sometimes some things need more technique, some roles, some performances. I don't need you to emote this. I don't need your character to have any choices. You are a meat puppet. We could damn well have a mannequin stand there and look at a sunset. And the more instinct you try to bring into it, you're actually going to ruin the shot. So don't do anything. Um, and then sometimes we need more instincts. We need to have that ability to just like, okay, have fun with it, play, maybe a little bit more for comedy or for drama. And you got to find that variation. But if an actor is just all instincts, it's very hard to work with them. And if they're just all technique, I might as well cast a statue. So that's one of my big philosophies that I've developed throughout my years.
I love that. For an actor to really nail their self tape, what are a couple of things that they need to constantly make sure they hit? You know, the eye line, the your frame, because it is technical. The self tape is very technical before you can give your performance.
Yeah, we are now in an era where we are asked to not just be the actor for our auditions, but we are the cinematographer, we are the editor, we are the writer, we are the director and the producer. We are wearing all these hats, and not everyone has embraced that. And those who are succeeding, and it's very hard for people to accept that. And it's not just accepting it, but if to find joy in it. I love editing. I don't mind shooting it, and I enjoy that part. But once I have my footage and I get to flop on my couch and do the editing on my phone and choose which transitions I'm going to use, not that it really matters, but it's what brings joy out of me, and that's going to make the whole process better. And the first thing I saw during the pandemic, when people were using so much more self tape, were people complaining on their social media about their setups, like, oh my goodness. And they would do these time lapse videos of them setting up their backdrop and setting up their lights and doing all these things. And my first thought was, wow, we're making it so hard on ourselves that there's no joy left for our auditions. So I started just simplifying anything that became an obstacle for me. Oh, I have to put up my lights. Okay, screw it, I'm leaving my lights up. So that way, when I have an audition come in, I can't sit there and mope and say, "Oh, put it." It's like, nope, you got no reason to do that. Your lights are already up. Your backdrop is already up. And this is my setup, by the way. And so now I just have to flip a switch, put my camera into my phone into a holder. I'm ready to go. And anything that's making it difficult for me, I'm removing that obstacle. So that's the first thing I kind of learned. And you're absolutely right. The first elements are the technical. I'll talk about the technical, but then I'll talk about the performance of the self tape that's really helping people nail it. Having your camera at eye level is very important. A lot of people still think that I can have my laptop on a table, but then it's looking up at you. If I can see the ceiling above you, that's a bad place to be in, Camera should be at eye level. And you need to have a plan, to all my actors out there, for you are in the middle of a Zoom callback or audition, and the director throws something at you. Let's say you're starting off on your feet, and then they say, you know what, I would really love to see this next scene. I'm going to throw something at you seated. How do you go from having your camera at standing to seated at eye level with ease? What is your plan for that? And a lot of actors don't have that, and they go on, as to use a poker term, they go on tilt. They start and they don't know what to do. And now they and they're not going to not book, but they're not going to be in their best mind space for that. um, just your lighting, having a simple lighting, the amount of people that still get on and they're shadowing themselves, or they have a window behind them and just not understanding those basics.
Let's go back to the chair,
Yeah.
because just to help actors out there who have either encountered that and freaked themselves out, um, and they're on a callback, should they have it just in case at the ready? Should they, what can they do to take that stress off of them, to go, okay, they may ask me this, this, and this. So can I have these three things ready in case they say, oh, okay, well, we want you to sit down here, or we want you to uh, go out of the frame and then come back in.
My default is standing, because if you're standing, we can still believe that you're seated. So if just imagine I'm standing right here, I'm on my feet, but I can turn and look like I'm on a computer if that's the scene. Hey Bob, I'll get a double burger with cheese, thanks, and then go back to what I'm doing. And then if the director says, okay, now let's have you walk into the scene, now I can just do that. But if I'm started off seated and then they say, I need you to walk into it, it's harder to achieve that. If it's a driving scene and I'm on my feet, I can just look, if I frame it close enough, if I move close enough to the camera, I can look like I'm driving. I don't need to be seated with that. So I would say that the best default is on your feet, because we can cheat it like you're seated on your feet. It's harder to cheat it like you're standing if you're already seated. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it just reminds me, just in general, when you're auditioning, you should always be on your feet, I think, just
Yeah.
because your energy is going. You sit down, you lose that energy, right? That
Yeah.
energy is dissipated.
And use your common sense. It really disturbs me when a person sees a scene and it says, you're in line for a hot dog at a ball game, and I come in and they're seated. And now you're creating a bad relationship in your audition right off the bat, when I have to say, like, oh, you're seated? Yeah, yeah. Well, it says that you're in line at a baseball game. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's just like there's a lack of common sense. And now I have to wait for them to go through the task of getting their camera adjusted. And they'll literally like tilt their camera up and be like, is this, so you want me standing? And I'm like, you got to raise your camera up. And now you can already feel the relationship turn in the audition. I'm not their advocate anymore. They have become my obstacle as a session director. There's got to be a little sense from my actors of using some common sense of, oh, it says I'm walking in a frame, I'm standing at the altar, why would you be seated? And a lot of people are probably listening to this saying, oh wow, that's so silly, why would people do it? They do.
You mentioned common sense, and
Yeah.
actors don't have common sense.
And the ones who do work, let's just say that if you're not working, check your own choices.
We get in our way. We're not. You said something in an interview that I heard, and I thought, this is it. Show up and listen. Being present is showing up and listening. And when you come to auditions, it's important to be present. Are there any little tips or tricks that you can share with your fellow actor that says this is how you come and get present?
There are tricks. For myself, I learned a great one from my therapist. Count backwards from 100 by threes. 100, 97, 94, 91, 88, 85, 82, 79, and so on and so forth. You have to be in the present to do that. Your mind can't shift to the future where anxiety lives. It can't shift to the past where depression lives. That will keep you in the present. So that's a great thing to always just ground yourself into focus. Is just a very simple exercise like that. Or going through the meditative approach of what are 5 things that I see, 4 things that I hear, 3 things that I can touch, and so on and so forth. Great things to just put you in the presence, and 2 things that I can smell, and so forth. So those are things that I will use. Trying to avoid distractions. If you're in the lobby, just in person, or you're just waiting in front of your computer, just sit and breathe. Put your phone away. A lot of actors fall into the trap in person if they see a lobby filled with their actor friends, and they spend more time socializing than preparing for a job interview, or to give a performance, depending upon what approach you want to take. And I've had actors literally come into my room and saying, "I'm so sorry, I'm not prepared at all. I've just been chatting it out there for the last 10 minutes." And I've gotten to the point where I'm like, "All right, well, guess what? You don't get to audition right now. You got to wait till the next group explanation, and don't come in anymore and talk about how you're not booking and you don't know why. You just told me why. You're not here focused. You're here being distracted because you have all your friends out there." I know a lot of people in this industry. When I show up as a session director, and when I show up as an actor in the lobby, I walk through, I give my little nod, I acknowledge their presence, and then I go hide in the corner and I do my work. And when I'm done, if somebody else is there or they want to connect with me, I'm like, "Hey, hang out until we're both done, and then we can have a good little catch up. And I want to hear about what's going on with you." But until then, we're there to do our job, which is to tell a story, to be a part of the story that we think we can tell. And then after that, then let's have social hour, because that is very important.
This is where people lose the job. This is where they lose callbacks, in that place of, oh, so and so and so and so and so and so. It's like, no, nobody's important when you come in the room to prepare. You should not look at anybody. Just get your stuff, sign in, and go take your seat and just focus on your stuff, because that is death to an actor. And I heard you talk about how that you find more union actors acting foolish, not your words, my words, acting foolish, and chatting it up, and then coming into the room chatting it up with the people, instead of coming in the room focused, ready to deliver. That is insane to me. You are a professional actor. Just the fact that you have your union card should say, I am a professional. I know how to show up. I know how to prepare. I know how to come in ready for the scene. And when you spoke about the fact that non union actors are more ready than union actors, my heart stopped. I was embarrassed for my fellow union actors, that that is even, we're even having a conversation about this. We work so hard. We pay all these dues. We take all these classes. We are racking our brains to figure out, how do I get an audition? And then you get the audition and you're not paying attention. That's a little insane.
And auditions are so few and far between now. I mean, it's flipped so much, and a majority of commercial auditions are non-union. And I have seen it switch a little bit since whatever that interview what was that I did, when it was, because now when a SAG actor gets an audition, it's so rare. They feel like they come in, and it's a little bit of a double-edged sword here, because now they come in and they're just like, "Oh my God, I have an audition. I'm so excited. I'm so grateful." And they really want to seize this opportunity. But then they also are now seeing their friends for the first time that they haven't seen in so long, that they also get kind of like, "Oh, it's so great to see." And it becomes this beautiful reunion, which is great. It's sweet, it's important. But you also have to know, like, do your job first, play seconds.
Mm-hmm.
You can acknowledge them. You can be like, "Oh my God, it's so good to see you." Hang out afterwards. You want to go get a coffee or something like that. And hey, and some people are good enough. There are plenty of people that can sit in the lobby the whole time, chat it up, and they can come in and they can crush it. So if you're one of those people out there and you're getting callbacks and you're getting avails and you're working as a SAG actor, and that's just part that relaxes you in a certain way and it's working, great. But if you're sitting there saying, I haven't had a callback in forever, and I'm not booking, and I haven't been working. But then you're also doing all these not to dos as you're showing up late, and all these other things. Then you got to check yourself. It's not a you're the problem, not not the universe. You're the one who's adding to it.
Let's talk about the mindset. That's where we get in trouble 90% of the time. Is not that we're not talented, we don't have technique, we don't know what we're supposed to do. But we come in, woe is me, I can't book work, I'm not getting the calls. It's trash can talk. Everything that's dirty and nasty just comes out of your mouth, and the gratitude, it has disappeared. It's like, I am so grateful I got an audition, I am so grateful to be in the room, I'm happy I get to do this, I get to audition, not I have to, but I get to. I get to come in the room. I get to talk to you again. Oh my God, this is great. I am so happy to be here. What do you need? I'm ready to go. The mindset of the actor has to be coming in, bringing joy. How can I be of service to your 30-second film? What can I do for you? As actors, that is not something that is shared enough, that we do all the work. We prep, we have our choices, we get our costume or our wardrobe, all that stuff, but we leave out the biggest component of the whole enchilada, which is gratitude. How can I serve your peace, Spencer? What do
Hmm.
you need me to do? How can I help you?
Yeah, yeah. To give, and it's an important thing, not just for what we do as storytellers and actors and actresses, but just in life. I'm a single dad. I'm a divorced dad. And people will be like, "Oh, can you do something this weekend?" And I won't say, "Oh, I have to do this thing with my daughter." I get to do this thing with my daughter. And that comes from a place of gratitude. I'm so happy I get to be a part of her life. And versus, it's an obligation, like it's a burden to me. My daughter's not a burden to me. She's a source of joy. And the second I start treating her as a burden, I'm going to start having that behavior. So, and I used to notice that too as an actor. I'm booked tomorrow to run a job at a casting session, but then I get an audition from my agents, and now I found myself, and we all kind of do this. A lot of actors have day jobs that they have to do, and you get that notification on our first response is, "Oh God, no, I gotta blah blah blah," and I hated that response. So just like getting a self tape, and people will be like, "Oh, I gotta set up my lights and my camera and everything." It's like, no, remove those obstacles. So when I would be running something in person, I would get an audition. I would just have my list of things to do. Okay, I'm going to text these other session directors. I'm going to get coverage. I'm going to be okay with paying somebody to finish a job for me. I will get my options. I will approach my casting director and say, I have an audition tomorrow in Santa Monica. I'm not going to be available for the rest of the day. I have these 5 people available to replace me. How would you like to proceed? And they understand that versus me bringing them a problem. So the mindset, I love. There's a Bryan Cranston video, advice to actors, and it looks like he's backstage at an award ceremony, and someone just asked him, "What's your advice to actors?" And he goes, "Know your job and do your job. Your job is to not get a job. It is to show up in the space that is provided with the material that is provided and to tell a story, to be a part of a character in a story. And then you leave it there. You walk away and you forget it because everything else after that is so out of your control. It's a complete waste of energy to waste any time on it, but rather showing up and putting yourself again in the presence of what you're doing, and then you move on, and whatever happens after that happens. I also would attend workshop meetings at In the Act Productions, ITA, in Culver City, and there's a great teacher there, moderator named Chris Gurman, and we would go up and showcase monologues and scenes for industry guests. And we'd all be sitting there very nervous. And he had this great icebreaker. We'd come up and say, "All right, everybody, when you do this, this will be our order," and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, "And just remember, everybody, You spend months and weeks waiting for the opportunity to act. And today, you're going to get 3 minutes to do it. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Because it's so few and far between. Why make it something miserable for yourself when we just want everyone to have fun like we're kids? And it was always just a very refreshing palate cleanser of like, yeah, find the joy in what we're doing. And then you walk away. A kid isn't playing, having a tea party, and then walking away thinking, oh, was I good enough? Did I make the right choices? Am I going to hear back from my friend about whether they liked me or not? No, they're just in the moment, using their imagination. And that's, I wanted to get back. I just wanted to finalize a thought on what we do in the room to help with self tapes. And the other thing is, your imagination as an artist is one of the greatest tools in your toolbox to really envision the world around you. And one of the simplest things that I see is I'm talking to Frank here and I'm looking him in the eyes, but then I notice his dog. And then I look back up at Frank and I take in his dog again. I have to really know what I'm looking at because so much of the soul is in the eyes. So if I'm just talking to Frank and then I'm referring to his dog, but I never look at the dog, I don't believe the scene anymore because the actor isn't experiencing the truth of the moments. They're just talking to Frank the whole time. Their eyes are never acknowledging the dog that's down there. And I can already tell that the actor does not have the belief in their imagination as if this is really happening. So, first of all, technically, I have to put my eyeline near camera. I learned from Anne Grinley Studios if the camera is noon, I want to put a majority of my action, if it's not in the camera, to either 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock. Those are the sweet spots. And then whatever is happening around, here I'm looking at Frank, looking at his dog, looking at his wife, back to Frank. If I just know where I should be looking with my vision, my concept, my imagination, it allows the audience to believe in it. So
Yeah.
know what you're seeing, know what you're hearing, be in the
Mm-hmm.
moment as if it's really happening. Live in the not knowing. Live in the not knowing. One of my teachers at UCLA always shared with us too, Salome Jens.
I call it living the adventure
Yes.
because you never know the adventure. You just are open for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You decide if it's pleasant or if it's a horror. you know, you it's like, okay, someone says I'm taking you on a trip, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. You get to decide, oh my God, I'm going on an adventure. This is great. Or I hate that. I want you must tell me what it is. It as actors, we live in adventure and we
Mm-hmm.
have to embrace adventure. It's like I am so blessed.
A good phrase is don't anticipate, participate.
Mm.
Don't anticipate, participate. And it's a really hard thing for actors to learn, but all because we know the end of the story doesn't mean our character does. Our character has to be in the moments, and discovery is one of the most amazing things for an audience to see a character experience. We love seeing the light bulb moments, and sometimes with good writing it is a discovery for both the character and the audience at the same time, and sometimes the audience knows the information and we want to see the character discover it. So discovery in Michael Shurtleff's audition book is a whole chapter, and it's a fantabulous thing. And we call those light bulb moments. And sometimes the light bulb blows up and it's very bright and very very quick, and sometimes it's a slow dimming effect and you can see the character think through it. But I don't know if 10 seconds from now a ninja is going to hop through my window and have an attack, and I'm just here stupidly talking to Spencer, and then that's going to happen and character Spencer is going to experience. So we have to read the script as the talent, but as portraying the character, we have to, yeah, I love that, live the adventure.
Take it in, take it in. It's like, oh my God, we've not been here before. One of my favorite saying is, I've never been here before, so I can't anticipate because I haven't been here before. I don't know what's going to happen. And so it is all new. It's got to be new. No matter how many auditions you go on, each audition is new. It's like, oh, I'm going on another audition. Ah, it's like, when were you doing Groundhog's Day? Because this ain't it. This is a new thing. You gotta come. I think this is just me. I think being a creative is the closest thing you have to uh being connected to God, because he's the big creator and he's given us the ability to be the little creators. And when we paint, when we sing, when we dance, when we act, we are opening ourselves up to being poured into by God, because when you do your job properly, you leave your body. What happened? I don't know. I don't know it's like when you're really in the moment, you kind of leave your body. You're like, wow. That is those moments. So I think we have to look at our craft in a different way, even if we only get the 3 minutes to wow somebody. 3 minutes is a long time if you come prepared. You are giving them your goods. When you said the 3 minutes, it reminded me of, I used to do stand up for a long time, and for about a year, I would get on the line at the Laugh Factory to do 3 minutes on open mic night. And I would have to get there by noon and wait 8 hours to then get up on stage and do 3 minutes. So it was the most stand up. And you talked about stand up. So I wanted to just kind of bring it in, because as an actor, stand up did more for me than acting classes on some level, because
Yeah.
I learned so much with the discipline of stand up that allowed me to let go of my fear, let go of my preconceived notion or my nervousness. In stand up was where I learned to be of service, that I was getting on stage because someone needed a laugh, not because I'm going to be funny now. But oh my God, there are people hurting here and they just need to laugh. So, how can I
Mm.
be of service? I was taught by a wonderful stand up comedian named Jackson Purdue. He said to me, turn down your laugh meter and go out there and just serve them.
Mm.
Just serve them. Your material is enough. Just serve them. And so because of that, I could get online at the Laugh Factory at 12 noon until 8 o'clock and be so excited about having those 3 minutes of stage time to do my jokes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not like, oh my God, I gotta go do. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna go do stand up today in the Laugh Factory. And I just think as actors, we have to bring the joy in whatever it is. We have to bring the joy, even if and remember that auditions are the job.
Yes.
Auditions are the job. That's it. Anything after that, oh my God, it's fantastic, but auditions are the job. And so if we learn the self-tape technique, and then we can put it, it's set up, everything's set up. Now we get to bring the joy in front of the camera.
I was just doing a self tape the other night, and I fell so in love with doing it. I just kept on doing takes. I just let it roll, and I just kept on doing take and take and take. Finally, I had to stop. I'd be like, because I could do this all night. I felt like Captain America. I'm like, I'm never going to pick takes. And it wasn't because they were wrong. It wasn't like I was trying to get it perfect. I just kept on finding new ways of having fun with it. And that was an amazing place to be in. I do want to get to something that you just threw out there about the audition is the job, and this was an epiphany that I had years ago, and it's been this wonderful journey of this thought ever since. I was in a relationship with someone, and she was on a career path to get a job in a real world, a non-entertainment job, right? And I watched her. She went through her training, and then she went through a series of trying to get job interviews at companies she wanted to work with, and then she eventually got the job at the company she wanted to work with, and now she has her career. Her, next however many years she works at this place, 5 days a week, 8 to 5, and she goes home. And some people, that's perfectly fine. That's what they do. And they might change companies. Maybe they make a lateral move, all those type of different things. That's like, a majority of the employment that's out there. And I compared that to my experience as a person who went to undergrad for theater arts, toured around, went to grad school for performing arts, and now is out there. So I've done my training, and I'm like, what's my definition of a career? And I came up with this very daunting phrase of the career of the actor is waiting for the opportunity to interview for a temp position. The career of the actor is waiting for the opportunity to interview for a temp position, because all acting jobs are temp positions. Sometimes they're a day. Maybe if you're lucky, they're a little bit more. Maybe if you're Vanna White or one of the voices on The Simpsons or your Grey's Anatomy, it's longer. All right. And congratulations, you're 0.0001% of employed actors. So I'm sharing this one day with a friend, Alex Giano, who works as an actor. And I'm think I'm being very smart about this. And he listened to me express that equation. And he goes, stop waiting. Ooh, I like that. And then, so I've implemented that. And then I heard Jason Alexander, who's a great follow on Instagram. He shared this great thing about how actors, the old career of the actor is basically over, where you do your training, you get an agent, and the agent sends you out on auditions, and your career goes off, or you just keep auditioning, however it might be. And he goes, that happens every day and it happens all the time, but more or less you have to make the career for yourself. You can wait and audition, but you will watch the pages of the calendar fly by. Whereas now, with simple lighting, our phones, everything else that you see, our microphones, we can create the content. We can be the writer. We can be the cinematographer. We can be the editor. We can be the director, and all these elements, and we can create our own thing. And we will be very happy. Our creative juices will be flowing. We might create something that just might inspire someone else to give us the opportunity that we were otherwise just waiting for. And the amount of times that he uses the word, wait in this little 1 minute clip was just amazing. So it's just a reminder of there's really no excuse for us to be waiting anymore.
There was never an excuse to wait. I started in LA in 78 as
Mm.
an actor.
What was
I've
that
been
like?
here a long time. Fantastic. Um,
Yeah.
there were no jobs for people of color. It was
No.
awesome. And but I didn't know that. So I would have my target list and I would reach out to everybody. They all needed to know me. So to me, it is really going back to your state of mind. I remember wanting to get with Jack Nicholson's agent because I thought he was the bomb, Sandy Bressler. And so I was doing everything to get in that office. And I finally got in. I had a meeting, and he said, well, there's nothing I can do for you because there's no roles for Latinas. There just isn't. I said, but Sandy, you're Sandy Bressler. You can do anything. And he said, but I can't do that. So I went back. I went back home and I thought, yeah, that's not good enough. And I remember the Pet Rock had just come out. Evian Water was just being popular. This actor that I knew had opened up a little flower shop at what was then the Chalet Gourmet, which was it's now Bristol Farms, but it was right on Sunset and Fairfax. and she would make these extraordinary arrangements that she would sell at a very high price outside of this little chalet gourmet that was one of the few places you could actually use a credit card, a little supermarket type thing that you could actually use a credit card, because before then you had to pay cash. And I said, could you make a flower arrangement for me, and I want you to pick out the most funkiest looking flowers, and I want you to put the pet rock and the water and create a bouquet for me. And I took it to his office and I said, Sandy, you can do anything. If you believe you can, people will buy it. And he called me up, he laughed. I didn't get with him, but he said, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. I know you're going to be fine. But to me, it was not about um who, they're not doing roles for me. It was like, okay, well, I have to figure it out another way. So I was never waiting. I was always, when I couldn't get in the door as an actor, I said, well, then I guess I'm going to go do stand up, because stand-ups get ahead of the actors. Like when the season would start, they were always going to the comedy clubs to look for stand-ups to have shows done from them. So I said, okay, I'm gonna do stand-up. So as an actor, we don't wait. We create projects. I was creating showcases to get seen. It was like, okay, what do I have to do? I'm not going to wait. My agent, I'm not waiting for them to call me. They may never call me. What can I do? It is my job to get work, not somebody else's job. And I think that is sometimes that's where actors get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
They're waiting on someone else, not realizing, wait a minute, this agency has at least 135 people they're repping. You think they're going to be calling you every other day? I don't think so. So what can you do for yourself right now? Can you help them? And my first agent, after I got my SAG card, I was getting so many calls because I was submitting myself for all kind of things. I would look at the Hollywood Reporter or the Variety. That was how I started my morning. I would go to the newspaper stand. I would get my highlighter and I would circle things that I was like, oh, Steven Spielberg is getting ready to do so and so. Okay, we got to reach out to Steven Spielberg. I would get my little 8x10s, put them in the envelope, send them out with a little note, and just submit. It's like that was part of my job, not
Mm-hmm.
waiting for anybody to give me. And what we have today that we didn't have in 1978 or 1980 is we have these amazing pieces of equipment that we can do a scene, we can write our own scene. We got Chat GPT to help us create a scene today. We have
Mm-hmm.
so much at our fingertips. And for us to sit around talking about, I haven't had an audition. What are you doing for yourself? How are you showing up in the world? What do you sell? Can you make a list of all the shows you think you could be right for because you have a certain look? And then send it out to the producers, the showrunners, not just the casting directors. Who are the writers of that show? If you can't get in through the door, find a window, find an attic, figure out how you getting in the building. It's up to you
Kool-Aid
to
Man.
figure it out. Hey,
You're gonna Kool-Aid Man your way through the wall.
we have bought a lie that says you will be discovered, but you can't be discovered if you're not putting out your stuff. It's like you can make the best cookies in the world, but if nobody eats them, you have no business.
Well, and one thing I'd love to share real quick, I came up with this, and this is something I lecture about all the time. People ask me, what is the job of the actor? And I say, well, when I was at UCLA for grad school, we had this like a career in acting class. And one time we had this big time manager come in, and somebody asked, like, hey, as a manager, what do you do for your actor? And he goes, well, I sit at the head of the table for the actors team. And we're all like, hmm. He goes, well, the actors team is for celebrity, is me at the head of the table, and then their agents, their publicist, their business manager, the financials, and their lawyer. And as a group, we make decisions with each other based for our client, the celebrity. And everyone kind of handles their own little part. And when I walked away with that is, okay, I'm not a celebrity. I don't have that team. I must be that team for myself as the talent. I must be my own manager. If I do not have an agent, I must be my own agent, which is what you were being when you would sit down with your Hollywood reporter. And I tell actors who are new in this field, I'm like, so they're like, I don't have an agent. I'm like, so you are your agents, which means you get yourself on Casting Network, Actors Access, Casting Frontier. You wake up every morning, you have your cup of tea, and you hop on there and you set your filters and you see what roles are out there for you and you submit yourself. And even when you have an agent or a manager, you still agent them. You are your own publicist. And they're like, oh, I don't have a publicist. So I'm like, well, if you got something to share, there is no excuse for you not to be able to share it. Back in the days, it was postcards. You'd go and you'd print out 1,000 postcards and you'd print out these labels and you would use postage and you sent them out to all the offices. Now you hop on social media, you follow casting directors, you hopefully get them to follow you back, and you spread your word out that way. You are your own accountant. Now I use Chris Dotson at M&M Tax Pros, and they are actors who are certified CPAs, and they do my taxes for me because there are many things that I'm still able to deduct as an independent contractor. My movie tickets, all these different type of things, like research, mileage, whatever have you. So I work with them on my financials, and I have a business lawyer, an entertainment lawyer that I can go to. But until then, I read the fine print. So this is the aspect that we have to have. It's great if one day we become a celebrity, or just let's say successful, where we're able to have those, because not everybody wants to be famous. And I totally respect that, but we want to be successful. Gil Cates, the late Gil Cates, always said to us at the end of every class,
Let everybody know who Gil Cates was. I know who he is, but
yes,
share who he is.
absolutely. Gil Cates was one of our professors at UCLA. He was at one time the dean of the theater, film, and television departments at UCLA. He was also a one time president of the Directors Guild of America, and he was a 12-time producer of the Academy Awards ceremony and an amazing director. So he just kind of like everyone's uncle, and he was the sweetest man. He'd always take us out to Jerry's Deli in Westwood for a dinner, our class. And at the end of before he would say goodbye to us, he'd always say, I wish all of you success and none of you fame.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I was like, I don't know what that means, but he does. And he's coming from a very wise place. So you
Mm-hmm.
better listen to him,
Mm-hmm.
Spence. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
chase fame, I chase success. And success for me, I've never defined this for anyone before, but did I do my job? Did I show up prepared, excited, and executes what I went in there to do to achieve my objective despite obstacles, to the best of my ability, not based upon the outcome, whether I got the role or not. And that's kind of a John Wooden, the former UCLA basketball coach. That was his pyramid of success,
Mm-hmm.
was going in and doing your job, and not worrying about the outcome. Maybe the ball goes in the hoop, maybe it doesn't. But did you do everything you could to prepare for that moment and execute it to the greatest of your potential?
Well, John Wooden was also about constantly doing the basics,
Yes.
constantly, working on the basics. And as actors, we need to constantly work on the basics. You talked about doing the repetitions. You talk about repetitions, and how do we prepare for auditions if we're constantly doing repetitions, reading scripts, memorizing sides, getting out there and having an acting gym that we can work out, success is imminent because you are practicing excellence.
Hmm.
Every actor that shows up to Hollywood is doesn't know excellence. Not every actor. You have a lot of people with dreams, but they don't put in the work. They don't put in the hours. So they don't have technique. They don't trust their instincts. They're just going on, oh, I saw so and so, they did it, so I can do it. But they're not developing themselves. They're not looking to see what they sell. What is it that you sell that makes you stand out? You gave a quote which I loved from Oscar Wilde that says, "Be yourself. Everyone else is taken." I think you when you come to Hollywood or New York or Chicago or London to be an actor, you have to learn who you are. When we start out we mimic people, but then as we start learning craft we have to develop and go, what is it that I do? What's my special sauce? How do
Mm.
I, because I'm always going to go up against certain actors. What separates me from them? That's the
Hmm.
most important thing. Knowing what makes me me and you. I can't be you. I don't want to try to be you because that's you. Why would I want to duplicate you? I'm not even going to do a decent job. No matter how good of a mimic I am, I can't live in your skin. So I think actors must find out who they are and then do their best. You talked about, I want to get into your background a little bit because we could stay in this area forever.
Oh, I have so
But
many thoughts that I want to share with you. Can I share one anecdote
yes,
with you real
yes,
quick
yes, you
about being
can.
prepared? And then we can talk about personality. But years ago, there was two football players that are coming out of college, 1A, 1B, and they're being interviewed by the team with the first draft pick. And they go to the first quarterback and they say, why should we draft you? Or if we draft you, what's going to be the first thing that you do? And the quarterback says, I've worked really hard, finished college. I've been in all the camps. I'm probably going to take a bunch of my friends, go to Vegas, and celebrate because it's been a lot of hard work, and I really want to take the moment to enjoy it. Fine, I can understand that. Makes sense. They bring in the second quarterback. If we draft you first, what's going to be the first thing you do? Quarterback thinks about it and says, "I'm going to ask you for a playbook." And that was Peyton Manning, the pinnacle of excellence in the NFL. The other quarterback he didn't have a good career, but he's really landed on his feet. His name is Ryan Leaf, but a lot of people don't know that name. So when I get an audition or a role or whatever it is, I don't say, "Yay, I got it," and walk away from the script. I remind myself of that story and I say, "Where's my scripts?" I start the work now. The work already started when I got the audition. So as soon as I get the audition, I don't hit confirm and then and I'm not perfect. I'm not saying this happens all the time, but I remind myself of hit confirm, read the damn thing. Because even if I read it through once, I can be driving, I can start thinking about it. I can start thinking about it. I can start processing it. So just a note to your viewers, ask for the playbook as soon as you can.
And
Yes.
study it and digest it slowly so you
Hmm.
can understand it. Because, how many times do we read something and we don't get half of what it's saying? We only get it as we read it over and over and over again. One of my favorite go-to books, other than the Bible, is The Artist's Way. And every time I read that book, it speaks to me in a whole different way. As a matter of fact, I just finished interviewing Ivana Chubbuck, and I was in
Oh,
her class. I studied under her, and I read the book a lot of times. As I was preparing to interview her, I said, "Let me reread this book." Can I tell you that there were so many things in the book I never saw before this reading? And
Makes
that's
sense.
how we are with our scenes. It's like we get the script and we're looking for our lines. As a beginning actor, I expect you to look for your lines, but when you've been doing it for a period of time, you need to take in the whole piece, know
Hmm.
everything. Who are the characters? What do they want? How are they living? Where are you coming from and where are you going to? All that, there's so many layers, that it's not about your lines anymore. It's about a world. You got a script and it's about a world, just like a commercial. It's about a world in 30 seconds, 30 to 60 seconds. It's about a world. So um as actors, we have to do our work. The glitter comes after the work has been done. The premiere only happens after the film or the TV show is complete. You can't walk the red carpet unless you finish the piece. So you got to finish the piece first before you can walk the red carpet. But our mindset is, so we're on the red carpet, we're taking selfies, we're in front of the step and repeat. No, that's the cherry. That's after you made the
Yeah.
meal and you put out the dessert. You don't get that beforehand. So it's a thing. But I want to talk to you about what I loved hearing about you, was that you decided to go to Dublin for 6 months and had a one-way ticket. I think as actors, what a wonderful gift to give yourself than to go to somewhere new and experience the adventure. So I want to talk to you about why you decided you were going to go to Dublin from Minnesota.
Well, first of all, I think the universe was telling me to. And I only know that because um, I was listening to the universe. I was in my senior year, and the traditional track was finish school at Minnesota State University Mankato and move to Minneapolis, try to get into the Guthrie, do Doug Lee Riggs, Brave New Workshop, try to get an agent there, maybe do little commercials and scrape by on the side. I was a Medivan driver. A non-emergency medical transporter, something like that. And then you do that for kind of the rest of your life, and it's fine. But I was in an English class, and this flyer went around about joining the English department on a 2-week trip to Ireland to explore Irish literature. And I went, this is 98. The Celtic Tiger is blowing up. And I just thought, like, wow, I would love to do that. I have Irish roots on my mother's side. This sounds very fascinating. And then about a week later, another flyer passes my face saying how to apply for a 6-month student visa. And I was like, well, okay, I'm getting the hints. I'm getting the picture. Thank you for spelling it out to me. And it just felt right. But also, I grew up in a one stoplight county. There was one stoplight in my whole county. I was raised on a fishing resort from 2 to 9 years old, and then we moved into town 3 blocks away from that stoplight. So I had a very small town existence, which was beautiful. It gave me an incredible work ethic. I'm the fourth of 5 kids. So, and then I went to a Division 2 college 3 hours away. So I had to take these kind of baby steps to do something. But I realized, I was like, our artistic obligation is to experience life and the universe, to put ourselves out there, to climb the mountaintops and then fall down in order to have to get to another range. That was a big metaphor I came up with in my throughout my 20s. Was I see a mountaintop, and I feel a need to climb as high as I can. Maybe I'll make it to the top, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just get to a certain point and say, like, okay, but then I'll see another mountaintop in the distance, and I have to see what's there. And that is how we grow as artists, is through these experiences. And I tell you, there have been times in my life where I would be coming down from a mountaintop, and I would slip, and I would fall, and I would hurt, and I would have to heal, and I would have to mend, and my bones would come back stronger, and then I would dust myself off, and I'd start going back up another mountaintop. And through those experiences, I've grown as an artist. And I've received that feedback. When I came back from Ireland, I auditioned for my professor, who is now retired and working professionally with the Minneapolis Shakespeare in the Park, Dr. Ronald Lawson. And I auditioned for The Tempest's Caliban. And after my audition, and I booked it, he just goes, I don't know what's happened to you, but you are a different person than the one I knew at college. It's because I went to Ireland and I was incredibly homesick and I was sad and I had broken up with a girlfriend who I loved incredibly. She moved out to Los Angeles. I left my family. I was alone and I was sad and I was scared. And then through friends in Dublin, I grew. I saw Paris. I did a play at Trinity College and I performed at the Samuel Beckett Theater, who now my daughter is named after, Beckett. And and then I came back and I was sad again because I missed Ireland. And I actually wanted to continue all the way around the world. I had this all mapped out. It didn't happen. So instead, I got to tour the Midwest, and then I got to tour up and down the East Coast from Boston to Florida, and back up to Boston, and back down to Florida, and back up to Boston again. I had never seen the East Coast, and I lived out of a suitcase for 2 years before I came out to Los Angeles. What another adventure!
So after you toured up and down East Coast, what made you decide LA's where I want to go now?
Oh, here's an amazing story I love to tell. So that tour happened in the fall of '99. Let's see, I came back. I toured with the National Theater for Children doing children's theater for power and electrical safety in around Milwaukee. And then I came back to Minneapolis and I toured. I did a production of Shakespeare in the Park while doing a day job. And then I was taking out the newspaper and I was seeing what opportunities were out there. And I saw audition for this Boston Chamber Theater. So I showed up and I auditioned for that. And I got this job for 4 months. I got to take a train out to Boston. And I was I was a stage manager, or house manager, soundboard operator, and understudy. And I got some stage time. But we toured up and down the East Coast and then I that finished in the fall, the winter of '99, coming into 2000. And Y2K, I went to visit a colleague in Chicago, and oh, I had a great Y2K. I don't remember the New Year's Eve, but it was oof. And the next morning, I wake up. My friend Adam Blazing wakes me up. Spence, yeah, how was our car when we came home last night? It was fine. My head is pounding. He goes, you want to get up and you want to see this. Somebody in the middle of the New Year's Eve night had thrown a champagne bottle through the back wind, heated, tinted windshield of our uninsured rental car. Because I didn't have a car because I just gotten tour. And I made the foolish young decision of not getting the budget rental car insurance on the car. And I had very little money at this time. The plan was just go move back up to Minneapolis and continue doing what was kind of expected of me there, keep it safe. But I looked at this car and I'd already called and it was going to cost about $1,000 to fix, which seems like nothing now, but at that time, it was more. And in that moment, I'm looking at this broken car windshield. My buddy's sweeping it out. I just made a decision in the second. I'm like, well, there goes all the money that I had in savings and plus some that I don't. I can't move to the cities now. I'm going to have to move home with my parents for a little bit and just save. Well, I suppose now I can do URTAs, the URTAs, which is the foundation where you audition for grad schools. And I firmly believe, Lydia, that had I not been forced into that moment, I would not have made that decision out of like, well, why not? Might as well now because my plans have now changed. I can now do this, come back down to Chicago in February and do these auditions. And it was something that I'd always considered doing grad school. Some people do grad schools for different reasons, but now I had more questions about my crafts. I had gone out, I had worked professionally, I had toured, I had done these things, and there was more that I wanted to apply to it. but I just didn't think it was practical. So I went back home. I moved in with my parents. To give me something to do, I said, I'm going to go and audition. Why not? I was kind of seeing a lady in Chicago, so it was a good excuse to go see her. So I show up at her URTAs. I do all the auditioning, which was so much fun. And I got accepted to the University of Nebraska, the University of Florida, Delaware's professional theater training program, and UCLA. The first two I ruled out because they were very similar to the programs that I already experienced at Minnesota State Mankato. Delaware was all classic. Chekhov and Ibsen were like the most contemporary people that they touched. No cameras, everything Greek, Shakespeare, that. And then there was UCLA. And I got accepted to both of them. Delaware, a lot of money. They were sponsored by Baskin Robbins. Their son, Sandy Robbins, was the
Wow.
chair of the departments. So I would have made money, no debt, and I would have made money by being able to go there. And then you go to New York and you go that route. And then there was LA. It was a very difficult conversation with Sandy Robbins from Delaware because a little bit of remnants of like Whiplash with J.K. Simmons, who I've worked with. I felt like I don't know, I was kind of being put into a blender about my choices, and I felt like it was going to be very kind of difficult. And then I called Mel Shapiro at UCLA, and I'm like, I don't know what to do between these two programs. And Mel, God bless him, just goes, "Come out to LA, we'll have some fun." And it was an amazing lesson because that's what I needed. I needed to learn how to have fun with what I was doing. I used what I was doing, the gift that I was given, as such a way to overcompensate for people to like me. If I'm the best actor, if I'm successful, if I'm famous, people will like me. And that was a wrong approach. It wasn't healthy and it wasn't sustainable. But when I came out to UCLA and I chose it just at that moment, I'm like, that's what I need. That's what spoke to me. And I'm in debt. I'm still paying off my student loans, but I've learned to have fun with what I do in my crafts. And I still thank Mel Shapiro every day for gifting me that and my classmates.
Now I want to tie the two of you being a session director and an actor. How has being a session director strengthened you as an actor?
I know the role doesn't go to the most talented person, the person who's the best, the person who was the most prepared, the prettiest person, the whatever person. Doesn't matter. There's so many different soups, so many kitchens so many more chefs in the kitchen. Uh, the amount of times that I'm watching the first round of auditions and then I get to run the callback and I'm aghast that these people that I thought were perfect and amazing didn't even get a callback, or they came into the callback and they crushed it and they're not one of the selects and getting put on a veil or booking it. So it has given me the peace of mind of knowing, like how he said, Brian Cranston, you just show up and you do your job and let everything else go. And that's an insight that few people get. And also seeing how, we come in as an actor. If I'm just an actor, I come in and I just have my very myopic view. I do my one thing and I don't get to see how it compares to others, and the choices that they're doing and the technique and the instincts that they're bringing into it. So of course I leave and I think I'm great or I think I'm horrible, one or the other, depending upon how you're feeling that day. And when someone is able to sit in on a session with me, which doesn't really happen, but in few and far times when it has, they're able to see, they're like, this is fascinating to see 10 people do the same thing in a row and what separates them from each other. I'm like, yeah, no. And I like to share, I've worked on over 1,000 projects, commercial, sprinkling some TV, film, voiceover, modeling, stunts, dance, hosting, so on and so forth.
You're
Uh,
an actor.
my 10,000, well, as a session director, I'm saying
Oh, okay.
I've worked on over 1,000 projects. I've logged my 10,000 hours of um, behind the camera directing actors for auditions, and I've slated over 100,000 individual auditions.
Wow.
And so that naturally just gives me, again, I would say peace of mind and freedom to know I do what I do, and that's all I can do. And desperation is not really part of the equation anymore.
How can actors walk into the audition from what you have learned all these years doing all these sessions without stinking up the room? Because desperation, has a foul odor.
Hmm.
It reeks. It's hard to get that smell out of the audition when they come in desperate. What can you share with actors that maybe could lessen the stench? Maybe not take it away totally, but just lessen it so they don't come in so desperate that they miss their opportunity to shine. Because I think when you bring in desperation, you miss your opportunity to show what you really can do, because desperation is is at the forefront. It's the thing we see most of all. It's kind of like if an actor is nervous and they come in the room and they can't get past the paper just flapping from their hand. It's like, is there something, and I may be asking too intense a question, but is there something that you can share out of the wisdom, the experience, and the knowledge that you have gained to say, have fun?
Two things. One, reps, meaning we think we treat our auditions so preciously because they happen so few and far between. So find a gymnasium, find classes to keep taking, continue giving yourself reps. The difference between those who book and those who don't, those who book have usually had 100+ auditions. Yeah, understandably, if this is your first 10 auditions, you're going to come from a place of indecisiveness and you're going to be more in your head. Uh, versus once you've had so many auditions, your technique is more cemented. You're seeing what other people are doing in the room if it's group scenes, and you're like, oh wow, that person was really good, I'm going to keep a little bit of what they did, and so on and so forth. Continue taking classes. I teach at Keep It Real Acting with
Which
Judy
is
Kane,
fantastic. We love Judy. Love Judy.
and we've developed our level. She allowed me to develop my child of the level 3 class, which is mastering the commercial self tape. And what I do is I send out a self tape request to the students, and they send me in their tape as though it's a actual audition opportunity. And then the beginning of class, we watch all 10 auditions back to back, one after another, so they can see what the other people are actually doing in the room. I don't like classes when I teach them of students watching each other do work and then also doing it, because that's not real life. So we'll put actors into a studio and then see people one at a time. And I like to record it. That way they can bring them all back and be like, okay, let's watch all of your auditions now. So you can see. And then we'll even play the game of you're all the directors, and take your audition out of it. You got 9 auditions to watch here. What 2 people are you calling back and why? And then I'll be like, okay, so Lydia just went. Everyone raise your hand if Lydia is one of your 2 selects. And they'll raise their hand and I'll say, why did you pick Lydia? um, and they'll share why. And then I'll say, Lydia, what did you like that you do? And what would you have done differently to get more votes? Because let's just say out of the 9 people in the class, you only got 2 people raise their hands for you. Not great. What would you have done differently to get more votes? And now you can see what other people are doing that have impressed them. And then I will throw in any criticisms as the teacher, but I don't allow my students to criticize other students. They're also learning, and I want to create a safe space. So I will say, I'll point out things that I see. You can point out things that you see about yourself, but otherwise, we won't comment negatively about other people's performances. That's for me
Mm-hmm.
and them to discuss. The other thing that I would say, in addition to reps, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Have other things happening to the best of your. And if you need to remind yourself of that, I had a TV and film. I had a TV audition once, and it's the first time I had it in a blue moon. And I walked in, and I was nervous, and I bombed it. It was horrible. The casting person kind of called me out, and I really should have just reminded myself of like, this isn't the end all be all. But I was putting all my eggs into one basket. If you do that financially and that market crashes, yeah, you're gonna have a problem. So you got to diversify yourself, become a super hyphen, become an artist, become a painter, put your things in other baskets. And if you feel that overwhelming sense of I'm putting too much desperation into this one opportunity, remind yourself of all the opportunities and gifts that you're receiving on a daily basis. And if you happen to then leave that opportunity with that stench of desperation, address it. When I bombed that audition, I calmly walked to my car and I had a tantrum. I yelled, I slapped my steering wheel, but then I took a breath and I said, time to take a class. Time to take a class. I'm too comfortable in commercial auditions and I do not have enough experience. And I reached out to my resources, my friends in LA, and I said, who are your best acting teachers for TV and film audition technique? And I found Annie Grindley Studios and I studied with them. And now I've taken classes with Stacey Edwards through Keep It Real Acting, and I've studied with her and I've moved on to the advanced class. So um, just so that's the reminder. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Remind yourself that all your eggs aren't in one basket. And then if you need to, give yourself the freedom to learn from that experience.
And keep sharpening your tools, keep
Yeah.
sharpening them. I want to talk about I as I went through your website, actwithspencer.com. And so the first thing I want to talk about is you have bullet pointed a career in acting, how to find the right support for you. Can you give us just a little um synopsis of what that means?
The first thing that comes to mind was from my teacher, Tom Orthwich, who simply said at UCLA, surround yourself with positive people. Surround yourself with positive people. And that doesn't mean that they're just going to sugarcoat everything and tell you that everything that you do is great, but they're not going to rain on your parade. They're going to support you when you need supports. There's enough obstacles for us out here as artists, as actors, and to find other people, to surround yourself with other people who are going to be additional obstacles for you, for us, is a waste of energy. So that can mean family, that can be friends, and there's people that I just won't communicate certain things to. And I've done a really good job of surrounding myself with positive people, who see what I do, believe in me, allow me to believe in them, and support each other. So that's the first thing that comes to mind with that.
Yeah. What I love about finding the right support for you is community, right? As far as actors, actors who are working, actors who are moving forward, because the mindset is different on actors who are booking work or at least getting a lot of auditions. There tends to be an energy that's moving forward. I like to compare it to when you are with the right group of people, it's like being in the ocean. The energy is just taking you out, right? You can't just stand in the ocean and stay still there. That water moves you out, whether you want it or not. It will, in a second, just like, we got to go. And when you're around people who are working all the time, or at least they are creating, they are doing stuff with their career, you can't help but move forward with them. It is impossible. I've never seen anybody who has been in an encouraging group of actors, be it a class, be it a theater company, that they all were moving towards their goal, stay stagnant. you
Mm-hmm.
you can't. It is impossible. I mean, if you stay stagnant, you're dead. There's something wrong there. You have died, you have gone to heaven. There's just a problem. So when I saw that, it immediately like slapped my face. It's like, yes, you got to have that right support. And right support means you're not with your group of people who are trying to figure it out, because they can't help you. You got to be where people are better than you, that you're striving to get to where they're going, because they are ahead of you, and you're trying to keep up. And as a kid, from a large family, you are the fourth of five children. You had to keep up. You had to,
Hmm.
because they would leave you. I'm sure they left you. I come from a big family, and my older brothers and sisters would leave me if I wasn't ready. It's like, tough, we're gone. Ah,
Yeah.
and I think being with the right support system makes you move forward. It's like you don't want to get left behind. You want
Hmm.
to move in that arena of success, and in that arena there is no desperation because everybody is intentional. I also think we get desperate when we're not intentional, when we're just chasing a job or chasing an interview. It's like, wait a minute, how about you strategize your career? That's a whole different conversation than just, I need to get an audition. I need to pay my bill. Then you and I love, you call them flexible jobs. Is that a
Hmm.
flexible employment? That was
Yeah.
that I like that term. Getting something that allows you the flexibility to pursue your career in a calm environment, in an environment that you're not stressed, like, oh my God, I can't go on this audition because of this job. It's like, you didn't come here for that job, you came here for your career. So you have to find work that allows you the flexibility, that allows you, if you have to do that job on the weekends so that you have your weekdays to go to your auditions. As actors, we have to look for that. We have to look for work that allows us the opportunity to go, I'm working on where I want to go, but in the meantime, I can handle this.
You brought up Act with Spencer. So just so your viewers know, that is my another one of my hyphens. So I'm an actor, session director, teacher with Keep It Real Acting. But I have a venture called Act with Spencer, which is my educational foundation. It's a non-union or nonprofit grant-based opportunity where I bring my on-camera audition technique workshop and lecture to organizations, whether they be educational, theater departments, or high school drama departments, or what have you, recreational centers, regional centers, veteran affairs, correctional facilities. And I bring this to people for health and education. There's a really great component when people are able to see themselves on screen, and we've all watched TV, we've all watched film, and we all have a little idea of like, oh, that'd be kind of fun. And if people show up to participate in it, and I can get them to a point where they can watch it and say like, wow, that was pretty good, that there's a light there that I think we all need. It's what gives us that bug that really kind of starts. So that is, if you want to learn more about that, that's actwithspencer.com. Please feel free to check that out.
And if they want you to coach them on a commercial audition, is that the same place they can go?
Yes. Yeah, you'll have access to my email, and there I also have a YouTube channel for Act with Spencer, and I put tutorials up on there. This will be up on there perhaps. And yeah, I'll definitely be promoting your work, and that's part of what we do as a community. And you want to be careful of envy. You get to be part of this community, and you end up auditioning against the same people over and over. And when you see somebody else book it, you don't want to raise your fist to the sky and be like, "Why not me?" You just say, "Good for them," and you feel happy for them. There's a great metaphor that I love out there that I got from Neil Patrick Harris, that you can tell a lot of my Instagram algorithm has figured out. I like acting inspirational stories with Jason Alexander and Bryan Cranston. And Neil Patrick Harris got sat down as a child with his parents by a producer saying, the career of an actor is like surfing. You get your board, you go out to the water, and you wait for a wave, and then a wave comes and you ride the wave in, and then you got to paddle out against the water and you catch a wave. And that's the simplest form, but I take it to this other level of yeah, you before you go out into the water, you better make sure you have the right board. You better prepare your board, have a good wetsuit, know how to pop. I don't surf, but you got to know how to, on the sand, get from your belly to your feet. You do all the training. Otherwise, you're going to go out there and you're just going to get rolled over a lot. Then, yeah, you're going to have to fight through the waves in order to get to where you wait for the set. And you're out there with other actors, you're out there with other surfers, I should say. Guess what? The wave chooses the surfer. You just sit in your spot and the wave comes and picks you. And you're going to be waiting for a wave and you're going to see your friend ride a wave in. Don't be mad at them. Bless them. They got the experience. Good. The wave will come for you. And you're going to get on a wave. Guess what? You might crash. Happens all the time. You see people in a TV series, season 1, season 2, they're not in it anymore. That's somebody who fell off the board and it sucks. And you roll and you get back on the board and you come back out. And I tell people in certain parts of the country, you better be at a beach because if you're in a parking lot, you're not going to find any waves. So sometimes you got to move to where the waves are. And the metaphor goes on and on and on. But when you see somebody else catch your wave, be happy for them. Be the person who tells them where to be, because somebody will tell you where to be to catch the wave.
What can keep us from being envious is knowing that your job has your name on it, their job has their name on it. You can all go audition for the same thing, but when you read it, after a while, you know, oh, this is Susie's job. This
Mhm.
this is her. She does this. This is what she does with flair. I mean, I could try to do this, but she does this the best. And if you know what everybody brings to the table, you don't get flustered because you go, oh, that, yeah, I could do it, but it's not the way she does it.
There's something to be said for that too, and a lot of people need to understand this. This is a big lecture point for me. In our first class of A to Z with Keep It Real Acting, Judy developed this thing where we talk about what books are commercial, and her answer is personality. And I've expanded that lesson where I asked all the students to give me the name of their favorite celebrities, and you'll hear Tom Hanks or Denzel Washington, Julia Roberts. You'll hear all these celebrity names. I love Ryan Reynolds, right? But let's take Tom Hanks. I'll say, okay, great, Tom Hanks, amazing celebrity, tons of character work, right? Well, he was just in the Elvis movie as Colonel Tom Parker. You think of Forrest Gump and all these different things. Go back to the beginning of his career: Bachelor Party, Bosom Buddies, Splash, The Money Pit. He's not playing a character, it's just him. We're not always interested in who can play the role as casting. We're finding the person who is the role, who has the personality that we want to see be a part of this story. Once we become a celebrity, now we want to see you play different roles. That's a gift. And help us, God help us if we become that successful, that we get those opportunities and we have the training to not fall flat on our face when we try to do something completely character-y. But until then, you be the most interesting, dynamic version of yourself. And whoever your celebrity is, don't look at the work that they're doing now because they are a celebrity. Go back to the beginning of their career, their co star roles, their commercial roles, the things that they did at the very beginning, and notice who they are and what they were doing. They were just being the most dynamic, magnetic version of themselves. The Oscar Wilde quote: they were being themselves because everyone else was already taken. And that is the point of coming into an audition: is I am here as the greatest version of me in this situation, given these circumstances. I have a want, there is an obstacle, and I'm going to overcome it in this story. And I will focus on that. And if it is good enough, great. And if I am the role, then I shall receive it. But if somebody else is the role and I'm trying to play it, someone else might get it if I'm trying to be somebody that I'm not. That is truly the truth.
And I would add to that because I know Denzel when he started and he did St. Elsewhere. Every summer he went back to New York and did theater. Every summer. There wasn't whenever they took hiatus, Denzel would move the family to New York so he could do theater. So it it also has to do with the actor and their commitment to their art. It was, I mean, I've known other actors who have gotten series and then hiatus comes and they just take a break. But it is about how are you pursuing your dream, how are you preparing yourself, how are you staying sharpened, because you can have your season as an actor. You can be the flavor of the season and get all these jobs in that season, and then the season is gone and you did not prepare for the next season. You did not, you're stuck. And I've seen this with actors that they came to Los Angeles, they booked quickly, they got on a job, because and this happens more to young people than older
Hmm.
people. They come, they land a huge role, they get on a series, the series lasts maybe a couple of years, then they're out of work and they can't get hired. They don't know what to do. They are lost, and then they just disappear. Instead of looking at, like, okay, I've got this job. What's the next step? Where am I, where do I want to go? Let me do this. And to me, as an actor, you have to keep training. You have to keep do theater, do everything you can.
Yeah, join an improv troupe. There's no keep your side hustles going as well. I'm friends with Bill Glass, who's Dr. Rick in the Progressive commercials, and he used to be a session director. And I saw him running sessions the other day, and I'm like, dude, you're in a Progressive campaign, like you're rolling in money, I'm sure. And he goes, yes, but I've done this before, and I let my side hustles go, and then it's really hard to get them back once you let them go. But the point with Denzel is absolutely accurate. Is like, let's imagine when you do become successful and you do get these opportunities to do something. That's how you become a success at that next level. Is because when you do get a challenging role, that's going to take on more. You're not just settling for co-star and small guest star roles. Jack Lemmon gave me that advice once when he was receiving the Spencer Tracy Award at UCLA. I said, any advice? He goes, join like a company that you can continue to work and grow with, and then continue working on heavy, deep character scenes rather than just settling for while trying to get these one line co star roles. So that way, when the moment comes, the opportunity comes, you're ready for it. You're not going to fall flat on your face because your tool wasn't sharpened. Your boy, there was another expression I had for that, but yeah. So it's really great to hear you bring up Denzel in that capacity because I think he's a great example of that.
There are so many exceptional actors that we don't hear all that they do, because we just get their little publicity thing that they put out, the little press release. We
Yeah.
don't see what they're doing in the background. We don't see the hard work they're doing, the love for rehearsals, that they are constantly rehearsing and making demands on themselves. We just see the carpet. We just see the red carpet
Hmm.
and them taking pictures and everybody yelling their name, but we don't see that they made an investment, and that investment continues to go forward.
Hmm.
It's like if you look at an old I'm dating myself. Before IMDb, we had the Academy Players Directory, and there used to be 4 books that would come out every season, and if you look at one of those books from 1980 and just go down the names, probably 10 of them are the only ones we remember, because people fall by the wayside. They don't want to do the work. They don't see
Hmm.
this as a long-term career. This is a marathon. It is not a sprint.
Hmm.
You're building a career. You're not I got all these credits on my resume. No, you are building a career. With that comes the credits on your resume. But we have it upside down. We think the credits build the career. No, 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 no. You build the career and then the
Yeah.
credits come. It's like you have to decide what you want to do in this business. How do you see yourself? How are you presenting yourself? How much fun are you having when you go into a job? Do they are they sad to see you leave, or are they happy that you're out of the room? I mean,
Mm.
all of that is part of your career trajectory. When you come in, you don't want to be the instigator. You don't want to be the troublemaker. You don't want to be the diva. You want to come in and be the team player. Shonda Rhimes said this years ago, and it changed my focus because I've been in the business um since I came out here at 18 years old, and I had already worked in New York, not in acting but in the record business. I worked in radio. I was an intern before that word existed, and I worked in radio for 5 years from the age of 13 to 18. So I learned a lot from the sense of it. But when I came out here at 18, I started to see how people who were very talented but very difficult to work with would get in trouble. And so I heard Shonda Rhimes say this, and it just changed my perspective on everything. She said, when I first started Grey's Anatomy, I wanted the very best people.
Mm.
It bit me in the butt.
Mm.
And then I decided I want people who are competent but enjoyable to be around day in and day out, because we have to live with these people every day. So I started vetting people. I Because she got burned by certain actors behaving badly, she started vetting the actors. How are they on set? How are they when, if they're working a week or a month? How do they show up? And so for her, it became very important to create a culture where everybody got along, everybody did their work, there was no trouble on the set. And I think that most production companies are looking for people who are enjoyable to work with.
Hmm.
So you could be the most fantabulous person, but if you act out on a job, that catches like wildfire. People will be talking about you and say, "Oh, please don't hire Kitty. Kitty is bad." Kitty turns into a tiger on set. Don't bring Kitty here. Let her stay where she is. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
talented, and so you want your reputation to be a good one. And if you had problems, you want to be able to start rehabilitating yourself. So as you get back into the arena to work, that people say, "Oh no, she wasn't like that at all. She was really quite lovely to work with. She showed up, she was the last to leave, she never complained, she gave all she could." That's, as an actor, that's also part of our job, not just to memorize the lines or to give you a pizzazz on camera, but also to just be a delight to work with.
Mm. And I think that we have to remember that I think at the beginning, and I'm still in this boat, we're all so eager to be successful. That comes pretty easily. It's what happens once we become successful. Once we're locked into a show, do we become entitled? Does our behavior start to change? It's really easy to say, oh, if I won the lottery, I'd give this much away to charity. But then it happens. Do we follow through with that? Or do we just hoard it all for ourselves? And a casting director friend of mine, Michael Roman, always said his experience from seeing people become successful was they're the same people. If they make $10,000 a year and they're not giving $1,000, even though they only have 10,000, and then they become $100 millionaire, they're still not going to give 10%, even though they say they will. They're still the same person. So when we're new and we get those opportunities,
Celebrity
yeah,
magnifies who they are.
yeah, Yeah. And so at the beginning, they might be eager and show up early and leave late, but then once that success comes, true colors really seem to shine, and that's when you gotta do even better because you're a leader at that point. You're a leader on the sets. People are looking to you. How is this person whose career is taking off? How are they going to show up, and do they show up? And boy, you show up good. It sounds like your star really shines then, which is what we
Yeah.
want.
I think when you come into the business, you have to see yourself already successful because you
Mm,
made it in. There is no when I become successful. I think that's the thing that gets in our way. I am successful. I'm going on auditions. I'm here. I made it. I am here. I actually know people. I actually know a casting director. That's success. It's like
yeah.
sometimes we make success so far away. It's like, no, I'm successful. I've survived and I am thriving. And that to me is success because I love what I do.
And I'm going to add on to that. I made the mistake in the past. I remember when I was younger, I used to think it was very black and white. Either you were in the industry or you weren't. And I realized it's just a sea of gray. And we're all at different variations of that. And then a friend of mine years ago told me that there's 5 stages of an actor's career. Who is Spencer Cramber? Get me Spencer Cramber. So there's a big leap there. Get me the next Spencer Cramber. Get me a young Spencer Cramber. And then who is Spencer Cramber, which kind of gets dark there at the end. And so much of our career, and then I put this definition behind success of going from 1 to 2 of who is Spencer Cramber to get me Spencer Cramber. And I thought that is a good place to be when we are not having our representatives go out and sequester work for us, but people are coming to our representatives to offer us work. That's a nice definition of success. And then somebody reached out to me and saying, I heard about you. I've watched your reels. I would love to cast you in something. And I thought, well, shit, I made it. Someone has now come to me saying, get me Spencer Cramper to an effective degree without me even have to go out and get the work. Now, obviously that's it. But to your points, we are in such a mercurial industry to put such hardline definitions on success is very accurate. And you have such a healthy, I've learned from you today so much, and I think you must be such an asset to everyone who hears your words and your wisdoms, and just thank you
Oh,
for
well,
letting me be
thank
a
you.
part of this conversation.
That was some great information. I would love to know what you think in the comments. And if you are so inclined, buy me a coffee. And if you are still hungry for more information, check out this next video with Judy Kane, who breaks down how to do your self tapes.